Let me finish up with this one story. Why I fight. A few years back, I'm one of those parents that started very late. I'm still too immature to have a kid, but legally, apparently, it could happen younger. I didn't know that. I told my wife when she was pregnant, I had one simple request. It was a simple request. I want a boy. I have good boy qualities. I was looking forward to teaching a boy how to belch. I was looking forward to how to hit on girls at a bar, how to do the almighty pull my finger trick. These are the things that I know so well. And then finally the big day came. There, my wife wasn't late, which by the way is pretty much like that. It's not. And anyway, how comes this little person bundled up? And one arm opens, and the other arm opens like a flower. One leg opens, the other leg opens. I'm holding this child, and I scream, "My God, it's a boy! And what a boy!" And the doctor said, "No, that's the umbilical cord." My wife's holding this girl, and she looks up at me with those eyes that only your wife could give, and she said, quote, You still like her, don't you? Now, I am a very slow individual, but on occasion I know when to give her the right answer. And I gave the right answer. Sure, I like her. She's fine. And in my mind, I'm just freaking out because I got nothing to offer. Nothing. And so I don't quite understand the whole thing. And then at about 3 months, this girl looks at me with that look. You know that look, gentlemen. That look that says, "I've seen you before." You're that idiot that keeps hanging around my mother, aren't you? And she went and she grabbed my finger, and a romance started. I did not know what love was until I had this girl. I had a romance that you wouldn't believe. It's an amazing thing. It's like this whole love affair that your wife actually encourages you to have. It's amazing. She was lovely. She had all this stuff. I remember dressing her up in as Superman. My wife made a Superman outfit by hand. And we flew her around. She knew she was special. One day she started vomiting. And I freaked out. Parents do. I was during an election. I was working. She continued to vomit. We brought her to the doctor, as new parents get nervous. And they said, well, she's going to be fine. This happens. But she's losing a lot of fluids. Let's get her to the hospital, give her an IV so she doesn't get dehydrated, and let her work it out. It was great. She continued to vomit. And my doctor said, well, let me just check out one thing. We just want to give her a CAT scan, just to check on one little thing, get it off the list. We go down the hall, have our CAT scan. It's not Canada. There was a tumor in her head, the size of a lemon, that I never knew was there. No one knew was there. Thus began the odyssey. We went down to Children's Hospital in Denver that day. The very next day, it was our MRI. Not 52 weeks later. The very next day. She had cancer. It had metastasized to her spine. The very next day, the love of my life went under the knife for a biopsy and operation. She died a week later. The love of my life died a week later. If I lived anywhere else in the world, I'd have no idea why she died. She had a vicious, horrendous form of cancer that ripped through her body. I can't tell you, it's been now 8 years, I can finally talk about it, what it is like to hold the body of your only child. I cannot tell you what it's like when people bring you brochures of coffins for a child. I cannot tell you what it is like that day you leave the house, and as a parent, you're finally not carrying anything, and your arms are free and they don't know what to do. I can't tell you how awful it was, and how I just barely survived. If I was anywhere else, I wouldn't even know what happened. That's why 100 years ago in this country, mortality level was the infant mortality level was massive. In some places, 9 times out of 100 in some places in the country. When John Adams was born, he was one of 12 children. He and 2 other siblings were the only ones to make it to age 3. Whatever you're feeling in sympathy with my daughter, understand you are afforded that as a luxury. If you lived in any other country, if you lived in any other time, the story of losing Parker would have no emotional impact to you because you would have been through it many times yourself. It is our free market system that gave us the luxury that my story is an oddity. We went on to have a little girl, another little girl. Another romance has blossomed. It is a beautiful thing having a girl. I don't know why any of you would want to have a boy. Boys smell bad and they break things, and that's pretty much all of it. We decided our second daughter, Piper, needed a mate, needed a sibling, because my siblings got me through the worst time of my life. My third child, my son, Chance, was born with Down syndrome. At 1 month old, we were back in the same hospital, the same waiting room, as he was in the same surgery room to fill a hole in his heart the size of a quarter. An operation that couldn't happen anyplace else happened here. He survived that operation. He has gone through 8 operations in his 5 years of life. I tell you this because if we lived in any other country, I would have gone through the horror of losing another child. But I don't. I live here. I live here. Our medical system developed through the free market has given us a way of life where I don't have to go ask, Mother, may I please, has my kid suffered enough to finally have the operation to restore his life? I have not yet had to bury another child because of this system. That's why I fight. That's why I get up. That's why this year the Independence Institute is trying to place on the ballot a constitutional amendment here in Colorado that would say that the federal government or the state cannot mandate us to go into any public or private health care plan and protects a cash for care system. Doors very easily. I want to make sure it's not. To put a final note on this, I go to bed every night and reevaluate what's happened to my life and my family, and it was a tough moment for me. And when my daughter Piper was about 4 years old, missing my daughter, worrying about my son, she came up to me and she looked at me in the eyes. I kind of stared at only a child and give you a looks right through your soul. She pointed at me and she said, "Daddy, pull my finger." It's good to be alive. Thank you.